Hey everyone, I'm Zander. I'm the founder and CEO of Bytewax, and today I'm going to show you how you can process data streams with Bytewax and using Pandas. So we're actually going to make a stream of data frames, which can be particularly helpful when you're doing feature transformations or analyzing data. So what we're going to use for this is the Yahoo Finance WebSocket. It's kind of like a hidden thing. So when you look at Yahoo Finance and you'll see like this updating in real time, there's actually a WebSocket that powers that. And so if you go into your inspect or DevTools in your browser and you click on the WebSockets, and then we refresh this thing. All right, so just look at WebSockets, and we have our streamer, Finance, Yahoo. You can see the WebSocket. So you can see the subscribe call here to the ticker Amazon, and then you see a bunch of messages. And these messages are encoded, it looks like. So there's just some byte string, and you'd have to decode them. Fortunately, someone on the internet did that for us, so we can borrow their hard work. So those messages are actually Protobuf. So, if you're not familiar with Protobuf, it's a serialization from standard from Google. And it can be quite fast, and it has very explicit types. And so you can see a protobuf file here for what comes out of that message there. And then you can see the ticker pb2.py. So this is generated. You can see the protobuf file here. So this is generated from the protobuf library in Python. So you'll give it this and it will create that. So we'll skip that part, and we're going to go to the data flow. So if you're not familiar with Bytewax, Bytewax is a open source Python stream processor. Makes it really easy to develop streaming pipelines and streaming applications. You can compare it kind of to Apache Flink, and in comparison to Apache Flink, it's like a lot lighter weight and easier to use. Okay, so we're going to write a data flow that's going to deserialize messages from that WebSocket, and it's going to turn them into Pandas data frames. So I have some code written here, and I'm just going to walk through it. And we'll start at the very bottom where we have our data flow. So a data flow is an object that's given a name. In this case, it's Yahoo Finance. A data flow requires at least one input, but can have multiple inputs. In this case, we've written a custom input called the Yahoo source that gives a ticker list. The successive steps in a data flow are declared with operators. An operator basically controls the flow of data through. That's how you can think about it. So they're primitives for like controlling and transforming data. So map is like a one-to-one. In this case, windowing operators, which we've imported here, can do things like collect over time or aggregate over time. So we have a collect window here, 1 minute, and then we have a map here where what we're going to do is convert that into a data frame, the output of that window, and then we'll output it. If you want to go into more depth into the what's going on in that input, Bytewax has an input and output API that allows you to write custom sources and sinks, which is pretty handy. Basically what you do is you describe how that input source is partitioned, and then you create consumers for each partition. In this case, it's a fixed number of partitions because you just have one partition in the WebSocket, but you could write a custom source that has many WebSockets opened with a different ticker for each one. So then you could parallelize all of them. if you can't subscribe to multiple tickers in one. So anyway, so in this case, we describe our partition, or the way that the source is partitioned. It's a single part, and then we derive the consumer of that, which is we call that stateful source partition. And in the stateful source partition, we just make that kind of handle into the stream, and then Bytewax is going to be calling, based on our direction, what we tell it to do, is going to be calling that handler. So we're using an async WebSocket library here called WebSockets. We've created this little batch async handler, basically waiting for a number of messages or a time to lapse, and then we're going to pass that down. And that's just kind of for a little bit tunability for performance and management of what's coming down the pipe. We don't get that many messages in this case. If we go back to the, yes, we can remove this. It doesn't update all that frequently, so we're not too worried about throughput on this data flow. Cool. So the protobuf part of what we're doing here is that ticker PB2 file. We're going to import that as the ticker, and that has instructions on how to decode that byte string. So and has some functions built in there. So it's going to say, hey, in this byte string, this part of the byte string should be converted into this based on the instructions in the protobuf. And out of that, we'll get a dictionary with the dictionary with information that's contained in there based on the protobuf definition. So we have quote type, option type, market hours type, price, time, exchange, currency, bunch of information here, not all of which we need, but we can get from that message. All right, so now we can run this, and Bytewax is just Python, so you can run it with the Bytewax run module, and this will essentially compile the data flow and run it. And you need to instruct Bytewax run where the data flow file is. All right, so now we can run this. Bytewax is just Python, so we can use the run it just like it's a Python module. We'll instruct the Bytewax run module where the data flow is and its name. In this case, dataflow pandas .py. You've probably seen this python-m before. We can instruct Bytewax exactly the flow name, the name of the flow object, data flow object to use, or we just leave it like this and it will assume the data flow object's name is flow, is named flow. This will take a minute to run because our window is 1 minute, so I'll fast forward to the output.